All right, guys, so there is a saying in the photography community that the best camera that you can have is the one you have on you at the time that a photo presents itself. And that's kind of the way I feel about Overland vehicles. Is I have my old Ford truck here. When I bought it originally, it was never intentioned for Overland. In fact, it was bought with the intention to move horses around and haul hay around. Overlanding was never even a thought in my mind. But when I came across overlanding and it became interesting to me, and of course I was already doing some similar things, but you know, as I started to kind of dive down the rabbit hole of overland, you know, you see all kinds of trucks and gear and what is considered trendy out there. But I couldn't afford that. There was no way that I could afford to buy a vehicle, a brand new vehicle, and then spend thousands of dollars outfitting it. The best vehicle, I think, for anybody is the one you already have. The main thing is you just need to have an absolute desire to want to go out and explore remote places. And I think if you have that desire, it's not going to matter what type of vehicle you have, or matter if it's outfitted with all the latest, you know, trendy overland gear. You're going to go out and do it regardless. And that is just, you know, a little something that I want you guys to think about before we start going into the walk around of the old Ford. Another thing too, there is an older video where I've gone over the Ford. Might be interesting for some of you guys to look at if you guys are new to the channel. I'll link it up in the right hand corner, but that'll kind of give you a little bit of a basis of where we were at before with the Ford and where we are now. Like I said, I want people to understand that, you know, if you want to get into overlanding, don't get wrapped up too much in the vehicles and the gear. Remember, overlanding is about a desire to explore and to, you know, get into remote places and, you know, explore those places. The vehicle is just a tool. You know, we all have to start somewhere, and, you know, most carpenters don't start with the best tools. They start with what they have, and then they build that toolkit as needs require. So that's kind of the same thing we've got going on here with the old Ford. It started off as something completely different, and over the years I've just continued to tinker at it, add a little something here, add a little something there, and we're at where we are now. We're definitely not done. There's definitely a lot of other ideas and things that I'd love to be able to do to the old truck, but that will just come in time. So anyways, let's start off with the front of the truck, and we'll go front to back, and then we'll do the interior, and we'll just kind of show you what we've got going on with the truck these days. All right, so starting right off with the truck itself, this is a 99 Ford F250 Super Duty. This has the 5.4 liter V8. There's a lot of people will make the assumption in the comments that this has a 7.3 liter diesel. I really do wish it did. A lot of times that was a great engine. The 5.4 has been very solid. I haven't had any problems with it, knock on wood, but it's kind of gutless for this truck, and I find myself, you know, starving for power a lot of times with the truck this way. You could get this truck back in the day with the 7.3 liter diesel or the V10 or the 5.4 liter V8. Does okay on gas mileage, I guess, for an old truck with the V8. I mean, I roughly get about 13-14 miles per gallon. Pulling the little overland trailer, which we'll talk about a little bit here in a minute. This truck is untouched as far as there's no modifications to the engine or transmission, or the rear end. There's no lockers or anything like that. So it's just a standard four-wheel drive pickup. So on the front, though, we do have a modification here. We just recently added this Warren M15S winch. I do have a video on that. You can check that up in the upper right-hand corner as well. Also, anything that I've already done videos specifically on that go in more detail, I'll make sure to put those up in the upper right hand corner so you guys could browse those if you want more information about specific items. But we did just add the Warren 15S. It's great winch. I've only got to use it a couple times. I haven't used it actually in the field to recover myself yet, but I did use it a couple times before Thanksgiving. We had a big snowstorm, and a few people found themselves off the side of the highway, and I was able to recover about 3 rigs using this winch. So it worked great. It's going to be a great addition. I definitely know I could have used it last winter a few times. Definitely happy to have it now. It's mounted on the Warren transformer system. A lot of people have questions about this. This is the Warren transformer, so it's also a product of Warren Industries. It allows you to basically put the winch on your truck without changing out your bumper. Go on their website and look and see if you can see if they have a transformer system for your particular model and year. But yeah, I was really glad to be able to go this route because it's fairly lightweight. I mean, it's heavy duty enough for the winch and all that, but it's fairly lightweight and didn't add a bunch of extra weight to the truck. All right, so coming around to the side of the truck again, there's not too much to talk about here. There's no lift. The tires are the biggest tires I can put on the truck without putting a lift on it. They are 285/75 R16s. I did swap out the stock hubs. The stock hubs were auto locking hubs. I had some problems with them and I ended up swapping those out with Warren hubs, which I've been much happier. I do have to get out of the truck to lock them now. I no longer have the ability just to flip them automatically, but they seem to work a lot more consistently, and I've just been, overall happier with the product over the locking hubs. The tires themselves, like I said, 285/75 R16s. These are the Les Schwab Open Range. They're a fairly new tire. I've been running them now for a year, and I'm really liking them. In fact, they probably get some of the best traction in snow for an all-terrain tire that I've ever used. A lot of people tell me to get mud terrains, and unless somebody else is going to start buying my tires, I'm not going to put mud terrains on. Mud terrains just wear out too fast, and when it costs about $1,200 for a set of tires, I'm not going to put mud terrains on. These open ranges have a 65,000 mile warranty, and because I get them at Les Schwab, if I go back in, I can always ask and see if there's any warranty left, and I usually always end up, saving $100 or $200 on my next set of tires. So, I'd say 9 times out of 10, these tires are great. There are definitely situations where mud tires would be more useful, but as fast as mud tires can wear out, they're just not economically. It's just not a good economic decision for me to put mud tires on the truck. Another thing people often ask me or tell me I need to do is put a lift on the truck. That's another thing that I just don't see myself doing. I feel like for overlanding, the truck has got plenty of height to cover the type of terrain that I go on. And I feel like just having a lift on the truck is just going to make the truck bigger and less maneuverable. It's already a fairly decent sized truck and a little bit hard to maneuver on some of the tighter trails. I think having a lift is only going to exacerbate that problem, and it would also just make it harder for me to get into the back of the truck and get gear out of the back of the truck, which will go into this setup here in a minute. So yeah, no intentions to lift it, no intentions to put mud terrains on the truck. I find that this particular setup is working really well for me just the way it is. Every once in a while you find yourself in a situation where, of course, a lift and mud tires would be useful, but that's just going to be that way on anything. There's always going to be that one situation where something else would work better. But for the core of what I do, this setup is working really well. Back of the truck here, we do have the Diamondback. This is the Diamondback HD. This is a tonneau cover. I really like it because I can easily access gear from the front, and I can access gear by opening a slit in the back. This one's also their HD model, which is the heavy duty, so it's good up to 3,500 pounds. Person wanted to put quads or something up here, they definitely can. I oftentimes throw firewood. On top of it, I've mounted a few things. I've got a 170 watt solar panel, which attaches to my dual battery system, which we'll talk about in a second. I've got just a couple of LED lights that point out the rear so that way when I'm backing up, especially with my trailer at night, I can flip these on and really flood the back so I can see what I'm doing. That's been handy. And that's just controlled by a switch up in the cab, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Also have just a regular small spade shovel up here, my Fisker's axe, and my high lift jack. And then on the very back of it here, I've got my recovery boards. These are the Tread Pros. They've been decent, good recovery boards, very handy. All right, so in the back of the truck here under the Diamondback, I have also the Diamondback tray that you can put into the truck. And inside that is kind of a, I kind of hate to say, it's just kind of a big drunk drawer of stuff. I have everything from tools some recovery gear, lots of little spare odds and end things like electrical parts, screws, nuts, bolts, voltmeter. I've got my impact drill in here, tie downs, just various items that I keep in that for easy access. Underneath it, I have a air compressor, onboard air compressor. It's connected into my second battery that is also back here, but I just have to reach in and you can hear I can flip on my air compressor. It's on a pressure switch for 120 PSIs. And then I've got a couple little attachments. Like right now I just have a little air attachment on there, which is great for actually blowing off my camera lenses. I do that a lot, or cleaning up parts or things like that. And then of course I have an air check for the tires. I also use it for airing up and pressurizing my road shower that's on my trailers. Back here is also where my dual battery is. Again, this is one of those things, I have a whole video on my dual battery system, including the solar panel setup, the dual battery. That I will link up in the upper right hand corner, but this is where my second battery is at. It's of course connected to the alternator of the truck through a solenoid. Right now, like when the truck is off, it's disconnected from the main battery and it's running my refrigerator and a few other accessories, but I don't have to worry about running down my main battery by running things on this one, so that when the truck is on, then it does connect the batteries up and it keeps both batteries charged up. Also, like I said, we got the solar panel. It's a 170 watt solar panel. So when I'm also off, like I am right now, if there was some sun, which we don't have today, but if there was some sun hitting the solar panel, it'd also be keeping my second battery topped off. I can, in the front of the cab, there is a switch. I can switch that switch if I need to. Like if the front battery does go dead on me, I can flip that switch into emergency, and it allows me to connect this battery up to the starter and try to get the truck started that way. So it's kind of handy. I can also click that into emergency if I wanted to. If we had sun, if I clicked it in emergency, then my solar panel would also be working to recharge the start battery. Also in the back of the truck here, I have 5 gallons of extra fuel just that I keep on the truck. I have an archery target in case I want to shoot my compound bow at camp. And then on the far side of the truck, I have my chainsaw, and I also have my Warn Epic recovery kit, which has, a tree strap, block and tackle, some shackles, and a recovery strap and a set of gloves, all in a handy little pack. Kind of in the middle here, I have just a tote that I keep in there, and I put a lot of like liquid things like gas for my chainsaw, extra motor oil for the truck, radiator fluid, bar oil for the chainsaw. I've got a grease gun back there, and just some other various things like some brake oil and things like that. But I keep it in that tote just in case anything leaks. It just leaks into that tote and doesn't make a mess all over the back of the bed. All right, so in the back of the bed here, we have one of my favorite upgrades that I've gotten this last year, and that's my Snowmaster LP66. This is a dual zone refrigerator. Again, not a necessity for overlanding, but it's really helped me out a lot because I feed my dogs raw. So one of the challenges that I used to have was when I'd go out in remote areas, I would constantly have to be getting back to towns like every other day, especially in the summertime, in order to keep ice in the cooler, in order to keep the dog's food from spoiling. So with this refrigerator, I can fill it up full of their dog food, fill up full of food for me. And as long as my dual battery system's working out good, which it has been, I don't have to worry about it. And I don't have to make special trips to town, and I don't have to worry about food being soggy and wet and basically getting spoiled because the ice melts. Definitely an expensive upgrade, and it's expensive not only in the fact that the refrigerators are expensive, but it's expensive in the fact that I think if you really want a fridge to work well for you, you should invest or think about a dual battery setup so that your fridge can run separately from your start battery, because the last thing you really want is to be deadening your start battery often, and definitely you don't want to be deadening it while you're out in the field remotely. On the side of the truck over here, I have just a little bus system. Again, this is kind of explained a little bit more in the dual battery system. But since that video, I did add some USB ports and a cigarette lighter port back here, so that if it's like summertime and I'm hanging out, I can you know, charge things right off the back of the tailgate here at camp. Other than that, there's not much. I just got some blank space. I usually throw, as you can see, some firewood here. And so if I have extra firewood after cutting some, I usually kind of keep it in this section of the truck, so that way it stays under the Diamondback and hopefully stays dry, and keeps the snow and everything off of it. So that's that. So anyhow, that pretty much takes care of everything externally on the truck. The only other accessory, which you guys know from following the channel, is that I tow a trailer. I do have a video completely on the trailer as a walk around. I'll probably do an update on that here fairly soon because we have made some changes. But if you want to, if you're not familiar with the trailer, you can check out the video up in the upper right hand corner again, and there's a walk around on it. So, but let's go ahead and get into the interior and we'll go through that real quick. All right, guys, so probably the biggest thing that some of you have been noticing from some of my videos is this bar work on the front of the dash. This is something I kind of built myself out of black pipe, just simple black pipe that you can buy from any home improvement store. You know, I've been getting some jokes from people about why do you have plumbing on your dash, but yeah, I built, it's basically a mount system for my phone. I have a camera on there, HD monitor, so I can check exposure and focus on my camera when I'm driving. And then I've got the latest edition here, a Galaxy 8 Tab that I just recently got through Verizon, and then I added a 256 gig memory card to it, and that's what I keep all my guide maps on and download all of my offline maps for. You know, a little of my own sweat equity putting it together, but it wasn't a real expensive project. But it's one of those things that you can do to a vehicle, or a little project that you can do to a vehicle that makes a big difference. For me, it's made a big difference in how I can organize some of my gear on my dash. My phone has got a lot sturdier mount. It's actually, these are RAM mounts that I'm using here and for the tablet. They're meant to go on handlebars for motorcycles, so they're very sturdy. My phone's no longer like flopping around and falling out when I'm hitting dirt roads that are bumpy. Tablet's been sturdy. I've got good mounts on the HD monitor and all that, so it's just really helped me organize this whole thing and allowed me to make it easier for me to get video, because I have a good mount for the camera and the camera's not shaking and moving all over the place as well when I'm driving down the road. So again, it mounts to the dash here. There's a couple of mount points, and then it goes down to the seat mount on the passenger side. So it's very secure. It doesn't shake around at all. Down between the seats here, I've got one of my Jackeries. Jackery is the sponsor of this video, and I really appreciate them sponsoring the content on the channel. As many of you guys know, I've been following, I really rely on these portable power units when I'm out in the field, especially because of the fact that I live out of this setup. So trying to get content out to you guys, charging camera equipment, running laptops, all that stuff, these power units have been extremely reliable, and I just don't, to be quite honest, I don't know how I would keep this channel moving forward without them. But anyways, yeah, these are great power units. A great way to power your accessories when you're out in the field. So if that's something you think you'd be interested in, definitely look at, I've got a link below to my website, which will get you access to these products and everything. And if you buy them through my links, it just lets Jackery know that you found it through me, and hopefully they'll kind of keep me going. So moving forward, that pretty much takes care of the front part of the cab. There's not really too much going on here. You got your standard pockets in the doors where I keep a few odds and ends. I've got my winch controller here, a little notebook, a few things up on the dash. I've got a set of binoculars that, just in case I see something off the distance, I can grab my binoculars real quick and take a look. The big upgrade that I've done here recently, which I do have a video on, is this shelving system that I did in the back. I removed the stock back seat and I built a shelving system out of Unistrut. Again, if you check the upper right hand corner, there's a video and it goes through the whole build. But those that have already seen it just know that that has been a huge help. Having the dogs up here, and they enjoy it because they can see out the window and they can sit, you know, comfortably. There's plenty of room for them. And then I still have got lots of storage space below them now to kind of keep my camera gear and some of my other chargers and things like that. And that's been fantastic because, one, it keeps my camera gear, some of my other gear out of sight. So like when the truck's all closed up, if somebody's just to look in, you know, they're just going to see the top of the dog bed and they're not going to really see what's going on underneath that. I look at it as not only a great storage solution, but also a little bit of extra added security, and just in the fact that it's has my gear hidden. All right, folks, so I think that pretty much goes over everything about the truck. So far, along with my drifter trailer setup, it's been a pretty good deal for me. Of course, there's always things I can nitpick and, you know, kind of complain about, but for the most part, especially considering the fact that I'm not just a weekend camper, I actually live out of this setup 24/7. It has been working for me fairly well. I do have a few things that I would like to change. One of those things is I actually really like the complete bed replacements that I see on some of the trucks in Australia. I'd love to be able to do something like that with the Ford, be able to completely remove the bed completely, have an aluminum box with side entry doors for my refrigerator, and then have the back of the bed still be a little bit of truck bed, open truck bed, for things like firewood and chainsaw and stuff like that, and just dirty items like that. But I'd really like to see, like I said, complete bed replacement with like the first 3/4 of the bed being a aluminum cabinet that had actual side entry from the sides. That would be really, really handy. Like I said, this setup is working decently enough, but because of the truck bed and everything, I get a lot of dust in there. Even with the Diamondback, I still get a lot of dust, just mainly because there's all kinds of gaps in the bed itself. There's just, you know, it's an older truck, there's drill holes, the air gets in through the tailgate. I have put some stuff on the tailgate to try to mitigate that, but it's still, dust just sucks in so many places, and everything just ends up so dirty inside the truck bed. The Diamondback has been fantastic at keeping things dry and snow out of it, but just because of the truck bed itself, I'd still get lots of dust in there, so that's kind of frustrating. But with that said, yeah, you know, it's all working. It's all working progress. And I do want to reiterate from the very beginning of this video that you don't need any of this stuff to be able to get started in overlanding. You know, I started overlanding with this truck when it had nothing on it. It was just a stock 4-wheel drive truck. So you definitely don't need to have any of the gear or accessories that I have to get started. You know, you can start off with just a, you know, basic ground tent and sleeping bag. Make sure you got food and water on board. That's all you really need to get started. So the biggest thing is you just got to have that desire. And if you get started in overlanding and you really find that you're truly enjoying it, a lot of this other stuff that I have will just start to come over time. None of this stuff came all at once. It was just additions that I made as I spent more time and gained more experience. I started to realize what was important to me, and that's what's going to be important to you, is for you to get out, start doing things, and figure out what is important to you, because what necessarily I have done to my truck may not be necessary or what you want. You have to figure those things out for yourself. So anyhow, again, I want to thank you for watching. I hope this answered a lot of questions. If you have more questions, please leave those down below. I also would like to hear what types of vehicles you guys are using to overland with. Leave the make and model of your vehicle down below. And if you guys saw anything or didn't see anything that you think I should have on the truck that I didn't talk about, leave that in a comment below. I'd be very interested to hear what you guys think. And we'll catch you guys again outside. Oh, also make sure you subscribe if you're not.